Okay, moving on to some other business that occurred over the last 24 hours. There was kind of an interesting call up on the north end of the city. It all started near Ditch Road, I think 84th Street North and Ditch Road, which there's a tree farm out there, and we have some city employees that do some kind of maintenance work out there of some kind. One of the employees apparently found 3 suspicious objects and brought them back to the city and then alerted law enforcement, and they were found to be, from what I am told, some kind of makeshift homemade, believed to be firearms, not necessarily like not firearms, fireworks, like some kind of makeshift homemade fireworks that were suspicious and potentially hazardous in nature. These were turned over to law enforcement. Representatives of our bomb squad took possession of them, rendered them safe, and they're looking into that. So far there's been no charges or anything like that, and certainly depends on what the intent was. It sounds like they were found shortly after July 4th, so it's believed that they were brought back into the city, brought back into the city after they were located, but they were found somewhere around July 4th. Just want to take the opportunity to remind the public that if you see something potentially hazardous or suspicious or any kind of object like that you're not sure what it is and it looks out of place, then by all means give us a call, because we'd rather look at it instead of have somebody manipulate it or something and have someone get hurt, which fortunately nobody did. Next item on the agenda, speaking of officers getting assaulted, we'll touch on this one. At around 8:17 p.m. yesterday evening, officers responded to a shoplifting that had occurred at a convenience store in the area of 18th and Marion. When officers arrived, they apparently discovered a matching subject nearby, and a foot pursuit occurred. The individual was at some point cornered and non-compliant with officers, and a fight ensued. Officers attempted to take the subject into custody, and during this, one of the officers was bit, and another officer also suffered some form of an injury that I can't quite say for sure what it is. Both officers were ultimately treated and released, and our suspect was taken into custody, fortunately. It was found that he'd tried to steal a fountain pop and a couple phone charging cords from the convenience store. But this individual was lodged for obstructing law enforcement, resisting arrest, simple assault on law enforcement, and assault by contact with bodily fluids, also known as sliming, which is a felony. Arrested was last name White Eagle, W-H-I-T-E-E-A-G-L-E, first of Casey, C-A-S-E-Y, who's a 30-year-old Sioux Falls resident. And he was lodged on the aforementioned charges.
Why not those 2 words?
Yes, that's my understanding.
So he allegedly assaulted 2 officers.
2 officers were involved in this scuffle in an attempt to get him into custody. So I know he tried to bite one of the officers, and he did successfully bite another officer on a forearm. So, and it sounds like it broke the skin, and it was not a good deal. Any other questions on that one? Okay. Lastly, that I'll kind of touch on too, the chief had mentioned that during the other incident on the north end of town, that officers were basically investigating an unrelated incident. We'll kind of talk about that one. This one's still under investigation. Don't really have all the details for exactly how this transpired, but it is unknown to be related to the officer-involved shooting that later occurred. But the investigation they were working on when they spotted this individual matching the description from the other burglary gun theft issue, or I guess possession of a firearm issue, was at an apartment where an individual was found bound and his car stolen near Rice and Prairie. So officers were out there at Rice and Prairie near 20 minutes after midnight early this morning. A nearby resident had called, hearing that they could hear somebody calling for help from an apartment. Officers ultimately found this individual that was bound and assaulted inside this apartment, and he reported that he was essentially brought there by a third party that they're still looking into those details and how that happened and who this individual was. And ultimately his car was taken as well. So that was that call that they were working on. It's unknown if it was a friend or acquaintance of someone that was involved in this deal or set something up or something like that. They're still working on that. And obviously it was a busy night, so I'm sure detectives are getting after this one shortly as well. So that's all I've got this morning. Anybody got any other questions on the night's events?
Now the night's events, curious from a question from another reporter, and understood if you don't have this in the moment, this week or in recent days, has there been a notable spike in reports of stolen cars?
Well, I did notice that there were a number of them on the list here today. Not to mention the one that just happened, which was actually maybe potentially more of a robbery if somebody assaults somebody and takes their car. But I'm counting 9 off the top of my head here. It looks like in the last 24 hours, at least since 8 a.m. yesterday morning, 9 different reports of stolen vehicles during that time frame. So yeah, it seems like it's been happening more and more frequently. Once again, just kind of like in the winter time when people start their cars and let their cars run to warm up, it seems like a lot of times keys are in vehicles and things like that. That's generally the reoccurring theme. Unlock cars with keys in them that get quickly taken. So it seems like the car thieves around here don't typically spend a whole lot of time trying to hotwire cars like they used to back in the day, or force entry into them to steal them. But that does also happen too, unfortunately. So yeah, it does seem like there's been a recent spike.
The victim who was found,
Mm-hmm.
were they treated at a hospital or anything? Any major injuries?
Of course, they were provided treatment. I'm not aware that it's a major injury that happened to them. I believe it to be likely non-life threatening. That's about the most I can say on that, to my knowledge. Anything else? Fair enough. That concludes for the day. Oh, all right. You guys have a good day.